Welcome everyone to another episode of Facility Management Marketing Podcast. I'm your host, Javier, and this episode is a little special to me. If you don't know, this is episode 50. Episode 50. Like this is crazy. Right now, it is June 27th. This episode probably might be coming out, I don't know, like first week of July, like maybe July 5th or something like that. I don't know. It probably should, because that'd be would be the 50th episode. So that's 50 episodes, and this is a milestone for me personally, because there's a lot of things out of this. All right, so this brings me great joy. So what I want to do is I want to kind of share like what I've learned about recording 50 episodes so far, halfway through the year. We started this podcast in January 11th, 2022. This is when the podcast all started. And my goal was to simply produce content for 1 year, 12 months, twice a week. So that'd be 104 pieces of content, 104 episodes. That was the goal. It's like, all I want to do is just produce over 100 episodes for a podcast in the next 12 months in the facility services industry. That's all I care about. That was my goal. I'm serious when I say this. I did not go into this with the intent of, okay, I'm going to start this podcast and then I'm going to like basically start making money next week and then do this and then do this. I'm not even saying that my goal isn't to make money, because yes, my goal is to make money on this through using this podcast as a platform. All right, so we'll be very clear on this. Like, I'm not doing this just because I don't know. I'm doing this for two reasons, or for lots of reasons, to be honest, because I have a list right here. Okay. But what I'm getting to is that I'm doing this to kind of help me as well too. All right. To grow as a marketer, to grow as a leader. Because what I've realized, you get better at what you do when you teach what you know. Okay. Let me say that again. You get better at what you do when you teach what you know. Okay, so like I used to teach martial arts for, oh my Lord, I started when I was like 12 teaching, and I stopped at 38, so almost 25 years. I taught martial arts for almost 25 years, and I got better at the martial arts when I started teaching. I won my world titles when I was teaching martial arts. Okay, and so it's really weird, but when you get into this teaching opportunity where you're educating other people from your knowledge and what your experiences are, and you let them know about what you're going through, what you're suffering from, all this other stuff, what changes is that all of a sudden you as a person start getting better at your skill sets. You start learning how to improve what you're delivering, everything. And so for me, this is a milestone personally, okay? Because I knew I could get to this. This is not an issue, but it's you can't foresee it that easily. Okay, you're like, oh man, this is gonna be like until July, and it's gonna take a long time, and I gotta like set time aside. And I do these episodes in the evenings. I have a full-time job. Okay, I get a full-time job. I do some side projects with some other companies. I have a wife. I've got two amazing kids. I'm a dad. I'm a husband. I'm an entrepreneur. I work for an amazing company called Rapmate. I love helping the facility services industry. And then I have this podcast. And oh, by the way, I'm also doing these other things as well too on the side. Like I mountain bike, I do other things. Like I'm very active. My mind is always going. And so it's important to me to kind of just like, hey, Javier, you're doing well. And I got this message the other day. So first of all, this totally warmed up my heart, man. I'm getting a little sappy here. I don't usually get like that. All right, my dog I think he wants to get out of the office. So you're going to have to just hold on 1 second. All right, sorry about that. I had to let my dog out of the office. He sleeps in here occasionally, and then when he's ready to go, he's ready to go. He's 13 years old. We just celebrated his 13th birthday this past Friday. We gave him a little Caesar meat thing with cheese and all that stuff. He was like, holy cow, this is insane. So he was pretty happy. So anyways, going back to this, I got this message on June 10th from Bob Davis. So Bob, if you're listening to this podcast, shout out to you, because it's people like you on why I do these podcasts, okay? Because you're inspiring me to continue to do this, all right? And whether you would have sent me this message or not, I would continue to do it anyways. But this message is like, shit, Javier, you're onto something. So check this out. I'm going to read this message from Bob. All right, so it says, hey, Javier, once again, thanks for the great info on the podcast. I'm applying your techniques to our lighting and electrical marketing. It's not in full swing yet, but I'm trying to take in everything you're providing and becoming familiar with all the systems you mentioned. With that being said, I did load an old spreadsheet of property manager contacts into our HubSpot. I created an email that offered a lunch and learn where an office could learn about the future of card access systems, where we bring in the Brivio rep to talk to them about why cloud-based systems will eventually take over versus on-site server-based systems. The reason I did this is that companies don't care that I'm a lighting and electrical guy. They get pitched daily by my competitors about how great they are, et cetera, et cetera. I wanted to offer my prospects some real value, and at the same time, I can also get in front of them with the Brivo reps, because we sell and install the systems. I took your advice and made it easy for them by including a link that says, book your lunch and learn now, and linked it to my calendar. I got a 25% open rate and one meeting scheduled with a major commercial property management company with 12 property managers attending. I will continue to listen to your podcast and implement your strategies. Thanks for putting in the work to help us little guys. Well, first of all, Bob, you're not one of those little guys. You're a big dude, man, because you're taking some serious action. You're positioning your business as not the little guy. You're positioning your business as a leader. You're taking stuff that I do for a multi-million-dollar company and you're applying it to your company. Okay, stuff that I do to help businesses grow. Okay, on a regular basis, using marketing strategies, and you're using it for your company. You're not one of the little guys, man. You are a leader. You're implementing these strategies, okay? So bravo to you, Bob. Seriously, bravo to you. So if you're listening to this podcast, this is what I replied to him. I was like, when I first read that, I was like, holy smokes. I'm like, dang, that's awesome. The open rate's solid. Anything hovering in the teens and 20s is good. The meeting is great too. The thing to think about is that it doesn't matter how many meetings you get. You're not offering a transactional service. It matters to have the right meeting with the right people that open up the doors. So one meeting you got you 12 PMs is a huge win. I'm glad you're finding value in my podcast. I'm working on putting together some mini courses and such. Just need to carve out some more time. Keep me posted on your progress. This helps me a lot to make sure I'm delivering the right type of content. Keep crushing it. That's it. So yeah, I replied to him. Why wouldn't I? Bob, you're badass, man. Thank you so much. Like that was huge, dude. And so this is our 50th episode. And you know, this is kind of a half-baked episode, you know, because it wasn't really part of the script. But then as I was going through this, I'm like, shit, this is our 50th episode. I need to do something cool about this. Like I need to celebrate. And you know, it's okay to take time to celebrate in your accomplishments. It's okay to sit back and be like, I did this and I did this and this helped me with this. And this has happened and this has happened. Like it's okay to do all that stuff, guys, because with all the hard work that you put into your marketing and sales for your facility company, if you're not celebrating the wins, then you're missing out the reason why you're doing it. You should celebrate the wins, okay? Celebrate the wins, celebrate the efforts. Even if it wasn't what you expected, if it's still a W, celebrate it, okay? So I'm gonna give you guys a list of what I've learned so far doing 50 episodes of the Facility Management Marketing Podcast. Number one, finding my voice. And you're like, what do you mean by finding your voice? Guys and girls, I use guys kind of interchangeably. Your voice it's tough to figure out. And you're not going to understand this until you start public speaking. I understood this when I started teaching martial arts. It took me, when I opened my studio in 2008, it took me a few months to find my style again, because I hadn't taught professionally in a long time. And then all of a sudden I opened a business and I'm like, crap. And then all of a sudden I found my voice and I found my style and I found who I was. And that's how I taught. And that's how people knew me. Okay. And so this podcast has helped me find my voice. It's allowed me to know what I believe in. It's allowed me to know what I enjoy talking about. It's allowed me just to find who I am and how I express these things. Like podcasting is one of those platforms that is easy for me to do because I talk. And even though you might be thinking like, you might be like this crazy extrovert, I am completely not. I am the most introverted person that you can ever imagine. Okay, I'm introverted. I don't like meeting new people. I don't like small talk. I don't like trying to like kill time. Like there's got to be purpose behind our conversation. I don't want to just be like, just talk just to talk. I don't want any of that junk. Like I'm the kind of person that's like, I need to have value behind our conversations. And this is one of those things that like, you're like, well, how the hell are you on an extroverted platform? The better question should be why are you a marketer in the extroverted industry when you're an introvert? Like you should be in operations or something. I know I probably should be, but I can't. Some of the best marketers in the world are actually introverts, believe it or not. And, but this podcast has helped me find my voice. I feel as though around episode 30, 40, maybe 25, I don't know. I can't even remember that far anymore. But I feel as though I'm getting in my groove. Like I people are like are messaging me and they're like, I just like how you deliver stuff. You're straight to the point and you just do this and this is great. And that may not be for everybody. And that's fine. I quite frankly don't give a shit that I'm not for you, okay? What I care about is that I'm me. I'm not trying to be someone different. I'm me. I'm Javier. And this is me now, and this is me tomorrow, and this is me in person. This is me having lunch. This is me drinking whiskey with you. Like this is me. Okay? And I know who I am, but then sometimes some people might think like, well, he might be different. Like what you're listening to here is straight up who I am. Okay? And minus probably more F-bombs and more 4-letter words because I use them freely, okay? A lot, let's just be honest. That's just me. But that's me, all right? But this podcast has helped me find that voice, and I need that. It's helped me kind of put myself out there and be like, this is who I am. This is who I stand for. This is who I fight for. And that's what I'm doing. Like that message from Bob, I fight for people like Bob. I'm working for Bob, okay? And like he didn't hire me. I'm just saying like he's the kind of person that of why I created this podcast. And because I found my voice, he's taken action. He's learning from this kind of stuff. And it's important to understand that podcasting is an opportunity to kind of like share all this knowledge that you have, okay? And I will tell you this, doing a podcast as the only person talking and not having guests is super hard, okay? Not having guests for a podcast is difficult because I've got to create, think about this. I've already created 50 different pieces of content, 50. Some folks have a hard time coming up with 5 fucking emails. Like, I came up with 50 pieces of content and I've got to come up with another 54 by next year. Okay, because the goal is 104. It's 2 episodes per week for 52 weeks. It's 104. I got to come up with 54 more of this. And you're probably thinking like, what the hell are you going to do, Javier? I've got a plan. I've already mapped it all out. So I'm not concerned about that. But where I'm getting to is that like having a podcast without someone else to talk to and then like kind of like shoot the shit with someone else and all this other stuff, it's challenging. And so this has been great for me because it makes me have to really get focused on what I'm teaching. And it makes me have to actually be like, okay, I got to do this. And this is how I'm going to do this. And this is how I'm going to map out my day. Because I mentioned to you that I have a full-time job. I got wife and kids. I have side projects, the side hustles that I work on. Like, so I've got to organize my day very, very structured. Okay. So learning the value of content, it's something else that I've learned in these 50 episodes. So, how I map out what I'm teaching, I write everything out. Okay. And then I'll say like, all right, these are the main topics of it. And then I'll write subtopics of what I'll be talking about in that. So like, it might be, about SEO, or it might be about paid ads, or it might be about reporting, or it might be about email, or whatever that is. And so I'll map all those things out, and then I'll have like little subtopics for each one. But it gets me better at teaching this knowledge because I have to sit down and think about like, okay, this makes sense to me in my head, but how do I teach somebody else? Because like my wife struggles with this with me. She'll ask me these questions. She's a realtor. And she's like, how do you do this? And I just kind of start like, instead of starting on step 1, I start on step 4. Is basically how she's explained it to me. She's like, Javier, you, instead of telling me like steps 1 through 8, you start at step 4 and you don't realize that you skipped 1, 2, and 3, but you just go straight to 4 and then you just expect me to know what the rest is. And I want to know how you get to 1. And I'm like, oh shit, that's a good point. I didn't think about that. And she goes, well, how did you figure it out? I'm like, I don't know. I just did. She's like, well, what did you do to get there? I'm like, I Googled it. And she goes, what do you mean you Googled it? Like, what did you Google? I'm like, I don't know. I just Googled a bunch of words. And then I found something and it wasn't what I wanted. So I Googled more. And then I kept finding more stuff. And then I finally, like, I don't know, after several searches, I finally found what I wanted. So it doesn't make any sense. I'm like, well, it makes sense to me. But that's the thing. Like, that's the challenge with me is that there's certain things that I get, like my mind, it just skips over. And then I just think about the other pieces. And so this is making me having to organize my thoughts and get more in that teaching thing because by nature, I'm a teacher. That is what I do. Like I taught for 25 years, basically. Okay. So this has been the other part is helping me teach my knowledge a lot better. This has also forced me to create a website. You're like, what does this have to do with podcasting? Here's the thing. I've had people say this to me and they're like, hey, what's your website? I'm like, I don't have one right now. And people are like, what the hell? What do you mean you don't have a website? You teach marketing. You tell people how to structure their websites, but you don't have a website? And I'm like, yeah, I just, I don't want to deal with it. And I've been putting it off for several years. And now I'm working on it. So if you want to see the work in progress, go to bouldermediasolutions.com. All right. It looks like junk right now, but hey, you know what? I will let you see the raw version of the site right now. Okay. So it's not like horrible. Like there's good copy in there. It's actually really good copy in there. The images don't really fit the whole thing. I've got to change like icons and some other stuff, but like you'll see what I'm thinking. And so every night I'll sit down for about an hour, maybe 2 hours, either at my desk or in bed or whatever, and I'll start working on the site. But it's forced me to create this website because here I am, 50 episodes in, and I'm becoming an influencer. I'm becoming an authority. I'm becoming a leader. I'm becoming a thought leader. And I have no website. And some folks are like, you're not really legit without a website. And I'm thinking like, but I have a podcast and you can download my episodes and I can tell you everything about it. And you can find me on LinkedIn and you can see my work in progress at ratmate.com. and you can see all the things that we're doing by like following me on LinkedIn, listen to this podcast. That's pretty legit. And some folks are like, but you still need a website. And I'm like, damn it. So it's forced me to actually create a website, and that's what I'm doing right now. And so I'll be honest with you, I am not a web designer. I know how websites should look like. I just don't know how to design. So I'll give you a quick little story here. We have a product designer. Her name is Megan. She's amazing in our company. And so she designs some of our marketing pages. So the way we work is that we'll come out with like, hey, we need a page for this. I'll write copy for it, okay, of what I envision what this should look like. And then she'll take that and then she'll try to put it into what she thinks the site should look like for that page. Now, sometimes there's some pieces of the copy that are not inside the page. And that kind of like, it doesn't make me upset, but I'm like, seriously? Like, this is kind of important. So I got to get creative sometimes on how I write my copy. But that's why we work it, is I write the copy, what's important. And I'll say like, we need to have these things in here. But these I'm okay if we do this or combine this. And then she'll put some stuff together. I'm like, oh, that's a really good idea. I never thought about that. That flows a lot better than what I was thinking in my head. That is way cooler. And then I'll just go along with it. And then I'll structure my copy based off of what I initially wrote to kind of fit some of the things that she's kind of put together. So I don't allow the website to dictate what my copy is. The copy dictates what the website is. Okay, does that make sense? But where I'm getting to is that I'm not a designer. I just don't have that design eye. All right. I'm a strategist, I'm an executioner, and I'm a content creator. Okay, those are some of my key things that I'm really good at. I'm good at content creation, like really good. Okay, and so where I'm getting to is that this website thing has forced me to create a fucking website. All right, so I'm sorry, this podcasting has forced me to create a website. So anyways, website is work in progress, and I'm hoping to have this thing done probably by the end of July. And yes, I am designing it myself. I'm designing in Elementor using WordPress. I bought a template, and I just go through and I start kind of doing some things. I've screwed up this thing multiple times, and it's finally like working correctly. I'm not a web designer. I don't know any code. This is why I'm using these like other softwares. I'm just smart enough to know how to figure this shit out. That's basically what it boils out to, okay? So I would recommend that you hire someone to design your own website. If you're like, we need a new website, we should talk to Javier. Don't talk to me, okay? Now, if you're asking me how websites should kind of like flow and structure, yes, I'm happy to help you with that. If you're talking to me about like design and like what should we use, like I can tell you this, use WordPress, like I like them. All right. Our CTO is like, don't use WordPress. He's a tech dude. He likes he likes other things in a different way. I like things simple. WordPress is fine. And then use Elementor. It's a website builder. It makes it a little bit easier to create these websites. So anyways, next thing that I've learned about having 50 podcast episodes is that it's been placing myself, it's been helping me position myself as a thought leader. Okay, so this has been the challenge recently is that at one point I was posting a lot of cool content on LinkedIn, like regular content, like daily, okay? And then this job that I've taken on with Rapmate has kind of derailed it. I'm not saying it's Rapmate's fault, I'm not implying that. It's that I have to create a strategy on content creation with Rapmate. And I haven't had the time to do that. I haven't had the time to map that out. But this podcast is still placing me as a thought leader. This podcast is giving me this opportunity to kind of position myself. And why do I say that? People like Bob. Okay? That's why. All right? Where people are now messaging me because they're like, hey, you have this podcast and you do this, and I have questions. Or can you come talk to me? Like, here's a great example. My sister, probably a bad example, but let's just use it. My sister, she's like the VP of HR for this company, like nonprofit company. She messaged me. She's like, hey, what are you doing after July 4th? I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, working? And she goes, could you sit down with our VP of marketing for like 30 or 45 minutes because they have questions about launching a national campaign? And I'm like, sure, I guess. And at the time, this is me being silly because I'm the younger brother. She's like, what are you doing on that day? I'm like, do you want to learn how to buy a brain? Is literally what I told her. And she's like, why would I want to learn how to buy a brain? I'm like, they're just $100. You should learn how to buy a brain. And she's like, this is ridiculous. This has nothing to do with what I'm trying to ask you about. But that's what my head's going through as the younger sibling. But with that, this has positioned me as a thought leader. This has positioned me with the whole, people are asking me about like, how should we do this? What's the best approach? Why would you suggest this? What software do you use? What agency are you using? Like, people are asking me these questions on a regular basis now. And this podcast helps. It's just what it is. Okay. Like, would not be surprised if I start getting some of the large facility associations reaching out, which you should be actually reaching out, because I can help a lot of the facility companies. Trust me on this. But yeah, I would not be surprised if it starts happening soon. Okay. So anyways, number 5, this has been opening up a lot of doors for other businesses. This is kind of what I just talked about earlier. All right. Number 6, it's giving me an outlet. This is totally giving me an outlet because I have so much stuff that is stuck in my head. And if I don't get it out of my brain, I think it almost suffocates me, is basically what it boils down to. So, when we work on strategies at Ratmate, and when I work on strategies for other facility companies when I'm doing like side hustle stuff, I have all these things that go through my head, and I have to explain it, and people are like, damn, that's a really good idea. Okay, how do we do this? Or other times they're like, I don't know, Javier. And then I kind of like, I'm like, well, let me explain it differently. And I'll start explaining more and more and more. Like, it was like, basically like, we had a conversation today about Ratmate having its own podcast. And then, our CEO was like, well, isn't that going to be like resource heavy? I'm like, not really. I go, I'm like, it can be done really easily. And then I go, think about it, Chris. I mean, like, imagine if we had a podcast and it's sponsored by 3M, and we're talking to over 60,000 contacts from our email list, and we have a podcast to our pros, and we're educating them on how to run a better business, and we become like and he's like, all right, you can just stop there. You pretty much sold me on this. And I was like, okay, cool. Because at first it was in here and I'm trying to explain it, and he's like, I don't know. And then all of a sudden he hears the whole like picture of it and how big and he's like, all right, this is badass. The thing is that I need an outlet to get all this stuff that's in my head and just dump it out. Because what happens is that it starts suffocating me with all the ideas aren't coming out. And this is giving me that opportunity to get these ideas out. And then to also like, hey, I'm trying something new. I'm going to just document me doing this at Ratmate and then talk about it on my facility podcast and just tell people what's going on. And that's what's going on. Like, that's what's going through my head. So this is why it's been great to have this podcast. Number 7, number 8, I don't know. It's been proving me that I can stick to goals. Like I know it sounds silly. First of all, any goal that I set, about 9 times out of 10, I typically accomplish them. And it's just kind of my personality. So like, I remember one time we were driving home from Winter Park with my wife and kids. We were spending some time with some friends at their condo, and we're driving home, and my wife is like, "Did you see that picture from Ryan?" I was like, And she goes, "Man, he's lost a lot. He was fat back then, but he lost a lot of weight." I'm like, "Oh, that's cool. And what is he doing?" And she's like, 75 hard thing. I'm like, "I've heard of that." And then she's kind of telling me like, "Yeah, like he looks great. I guess you get to like read books and stuff." And then I was like, and I knew about 75 hard because I was already researching it. And then literally in the drive home, I'm like, "I'm doing it." She's like, "What do you mean you're doing it?" I'm like, "I'm starting on Monday." She's like, "That's tomorrow." I'm like, "I know. I'm starting Monday." And she's like, "That," and at that point I go, "Calculate when it's going to be over." She's like, "What do you mean?" I'm like, "I want to know when it ends. Like, is it going to end before Christmas or what?" And she's like calculating. She's counting days. She's like, "It'll end right after your birthday." I was like, "All right, cool." She goes, "You understand that this is basically going to interfere with my birthday, with Thanksgiving, and anything else in between?" I'm like, "Yeah, it's fine." And she's like, "It's my birthday." I'm like, "I can still celebrate your birthday without alcohol." And she's like, Yeah, you can. It's not the same. I'm like, I get it. Well, I did it. Okay. And so this is the way I operate. And this is just proven to me that I can stick to goals because I have to always be challenging myself. And this is one of those things I'm challenging myself to do. All right. And then I guess the last piece, number 8 or number 9, or maybe even number 10, is learning how to build a community. Like I've done this before, but I've done this in a personal way, like running a business. Like I've built a community there. I've done this in different ways. Like when I was at CMI Mechanical, I built a community with our podcast, as well as like in the Connects group that they had like a chat forum or whatever it is. Where I'm coming from is that it's teaching me on how to rebuild a community again, because building a community is really difficult. And so I got to say, like, you folks that continue to download my podcasts, like, first, like, thank you, because you are helping me. You're helping me. All right. Like you're allowing this podcast to be what it is. And so my request is that you give us a review. My request is that you DM me and you ask me if there's any kind of content that you're like, hey, this would be great. My request is that you do what Bob did and be like, hey, I've tried this, and this, and these are the results. And this is what's been working. And so I haven't even reviewed like what Bob has done so far, but his results, solid. Like those are good results. Okay. So I'm just letting everybody know, like I already kind of like read the response, but like, I'm just letting you guys know, like solid response, like solid results. Okay. So where am I coming from with all this stuff? This podcast, 50 episodes, has allowed me to do what I just described. Okay. What's going to happen over the next 54 episodes, over the next 6 months? I don't know. It's going to get better is what I'm planning. Okay. I'm already feeling as though like this podcast is evolving and people are messaging me and I'm getting these opportunities to talk to others, and people are like seeking me out for like, hey, I need some advice on this. And I mean, one of my friends that is in the facility industry, his name is Scott Hoffman. He works for JLLT, JLL Technologies, and so he does sales there, I think in the mid-market. Scott, if you're listening to this, I'm probably butchering this, but sorry, man. Anyways, he's given me some great compliments, you know, as a marketer, like, and that means a lot to me because he's been in the sales world quite a bit. So he's seen his fair share of marketing, and even he's like, you're probably one of the smartest marketing people I've ever met. And part of me is like, man, that's kind of badass. And I'm like, and then the other part is like, so the people that you've met are stupid? And they're not. Like, they're intelligent folks. But I think it's because, and I read this in someone else's post, I think the reason why I'm good at what I do is because I was in sales before. I know how to speak to people. I'm a teacher. And so it's like this whole marketing stuff is kind of easy for me. Like, that's just kind of what it boils down to. It's and that's not easy as in like, it's like, I just wake up and just things just get done. I'm not saying that. I'm saying like, I can start researching something and then I can start figuring out the answer to it and know how to execute it in a few days, few weeks, whatever that is. I'll be having some new content about what I'm talking about. So this is kind of what, holy cow, it's a huge dog. Oh no, that's a deer. I just saw a deer walk in front of my house, and it's a giant deer. I thought it was a Great Dane for a second. Holy cow. I think it's gone. That was a giant deer. We get deer that walk in front. And I don't live in the country. I literally live in the burbs. Okay. So, what was I talking about? I forgot. Oh, no. Anyways, I lost my track of mind. You're probably listening to this and like, Javier, you're just talking about this. Yeah, I know. So with that, I probably should end this episode and just want to say thank you for all of you guys that have been a part of this podcast, because there it is. Another deer. It's a buck too. He's big. Holy smokes. That's another deer. This is cool. So I should probably end this. Oh, and there's another baby buck. He's running. That's three deer. 3 deer walking in front of our house. Nuts. Let's see if another one comes by. Well, I'm sorry I'm getting distracted by this, but if you were here, you'd be like, let's look at the deer. I technically should just shut this off and go outside and look at the deer because this is flipping cool. So with that said, thank you for listening to this podcast. I ask that you continue to be a continued listener of this podcast because I'm working my ass off putting out all this content on a weekly basis, 2 episodes a week, and not letting down. Okay, I'd love to do more, but that's the most I can do right now is 2. That's what I'm committed to. All right. So, if there's something that you want me to talk about, learn about, let me know. If you guys are interested and be like, hey, I'd love for you to do a speaking engagement for our company or our organization or a teaching engagement, like let me know. I'd be interested in chatting about that. Like, I'm happy to help. Okay. So let's discuss it and see what we can kind of put together. But with that, I appreciate your time. 3 things for me. I didn't do this in my last episode, but number 1, review us on Google, on Spotify or on Apple Podcasts. Number 2, connect with me on LinkedIn. Send me kind of DMs like what Bob did. And then number 3, share this podcast with somebody else. It's exactly how Bob actually got onto this podcast because this podcast was shared to him. And so point is that it's important to basically, share this podcast because other people can learn from it as well too. Thanks a lot and have a powerful day.